developed, but that's all going to be in the plan for development and the official plan, getting the stormwater study done, the environmental study done. Like I said at the beginning, we don't know what's going to go on the 9th land lands until we, as a community, decide what's going to go on the 9th line. Now, as far as development goes, yes, we will have development, and both mayoral candidates last night agreed that there will be development on the 9th line. We need to generate some revenue and tax base. Now, does that mean that it's going to be at the cost of keeping some natural? No, absolutely not. We'll be keeping as much as possible as as a natural land. And as far as diverting water, you can engineer water to go in a certain direction, just like we have on the lands right now. And that has been discussed through AMAC and through our consultants.
Over to Kira.
30 years ago, wetlands were engineered. Lisgar was called Catholic Swamp for a reason. It was a swamp. It was engineered. 30 years after, it's flooding. It didn't work. All the major conservation authorities in Ontario are moving away from engineering wetlands because it sinks. Lisgar and a significant part of Churchill Meadows is the 3rd conservation authority, Horton Conservation Authority. And there is quite accurate data. These are very smart people who map floodplains and wetlands. Nearly 2/3 of the 9th line corridor is wetlands. What it means is it's a natural flooding basin that protects the communities of Churchill Meadows and Lisgar and drains the water from them. So to concretize it, putting concrete over it, and to pave it is a disaster waiting to happen. There is very clear data. There is maps online available at Churchill Meadows Residents Association and Lisgar Residents Association. I invite you to go and look at them and make yourself more informed. But the reality is 2/3 of it is floodplain.
Thank you. Over to Jamie.
Well, we've heard of AMEC again re-engineering the waterway. We have the experience at Churchill Meadows and Lisgar, where the homes are flooding. We have floodplains on 9th line. We're talking about developing these lands. The floodplain areas can be accessed to create ponds and add vegetation that can thrive in an environment while adding charm, color, and beauty in the diversity and the mixture of the area. We can use that area, even though it's floodplains, to create floral gardens and lush vegetation with the parks that we decide that we want to put on 9th line, plus the other businesses that will help to develop and to bring businesses to the area, to bring people to the area, and to make it much more profitable, to have an area where we're not going to leave it sitting there that it will just be flooding, but it will have charm and beauty in an area where it's not actually to happen.
Thank you, Jamie. And now, Paul, your thoughts.
Growing up in the construction business, a plumber once told me there's 2 things you need to know to be a plumber. Water runs downhill and payday is on Friday. But seriously, wetlands need to remain wetlands. You can engineer everything you want out of them, and we've seen what happened with engineering in our area with flooding and rain. So we got to be very careful when we decide what we're going to engineer and how we're going to engineer it if we're going to do that. That's always best to keep things natural as possible and alleviate any of the potential problems down the road. You can build on water, but you're just asking for trouble.
Over to Sue now.
I just want to clarify, I never said once that we were going to build on water or on floodplain. Absolutely not. I said that we're going to put whatever development that we can do down at the south end at Eglinton and 9th line where there isn't floodplain. I agree with you that we can make the floodplain area into beautiful areas for our community to use, and I intend on doing that with the areas that can't be developed. Thank you.
Over to Kira now.
A very important distinction needs to be made. The lands that are close to the 9th line and Eglinton corridor, Horton Conservation Authority is in the process of updating the floodplain mapping. It is a process that goes through on a cyclical basis. So there is insufficient data and it needs to be looked at carefully before anything is proposed for that land. Earlier in this question, it was mentioned that the 2 mayors had made opinions on what should happen on the 9th line corridor. I just want to remind everybody in the audience that the direct impact of whatever takes place on the 9th line corridor has individual impact on every single family in Ward 10. Not the 2 mayoral candidates, not the 12 mayoral candidates, not anybody else in the city, the Ward 10 residents. Therein lies the challenge. Ward 10 must have the priority in defining and informing the vision for Ninth Line Corridor, over and beyond any who decides and chooses to make an opinion about it, and certainly any mayoral candidate.
So our next question goes to the Liberties here first, and it's kind of appropriate because you mentioned it, and it's got nothing to do with Ward 10. Are you a Mahoney or Crombie supporter? Why? And whose vision do you support? And we're going to ask the candidates about the mayoralty candidates.
Thank you, Jonathan. Isn't it interesting that it seems to have come down to are you a Mahoney or a Crombie supporter? And it seems to be quite easy to just disregard every other candidate, and that is an interesting insight.
I just read the questions.
I understand, Jonathan. I just wanted to highlight that because I know that has been a little problematic for the other candidates. But it's a good question, and thank you for asking me that. I don't play favorites. And I don't like old boys network. I don't like cliques. I don't like special groups and little in the know groups, if you know what I mean, who endorse each other and say, let's hold hands, let's play hugs and kisses, and let's create our own little club. Why? Because it destroys my city. Mississauga is the 6th largest city in the country, and it deserves the best there is. And what that requires is building a team that works effectively together on all levels and puts the city first. It's not about my team versus your team. So am I a Crombie fan, or am I a Mahoney fan, or am I a Stephen King fan? I'm all their fans for the fact that they've decided to run for mayor, and I am a team builder. Bottom line, my city comes first, and more importantly, my Ward 10 is my heart.
Thank you, Andrew.
I am not a status quo person. I'm a progressive individual. I'm a change management expert. I don't like going back to the old, same old, because you're going to get the same old, same old. Stephen King is a resident from Ward 10. We're looking for change. Ward 10 is suffering for a lot of stuff. If we vote for Stephen King, we probably will get a lot of stuff in Ward 10 because he lives in Ward 10. So that's where I was at.
Thank you, Jamie. Over to you, Paul.
It's always a very good question when people ask me about the 2 top candidates and not mention anything about everyone else that's running that probably is in a better position than the top 2 candidates. But because their name isn't the top 2, you don't hear about them. You really need to seriously look at everyone else that's running for mayor, because they're all running for something, and they all have something worthwhile to bring to the table. My main concern, if I'm looking at the top 2 candidates, is who has tried to mislead us already, and he hasn't even got elected. So you can look in the paper and decide who that is. I'm not going to mention it out loud, but you have to be very careful when you choose the next mayor, because they have to be in it for Mississauga, and for the wards of Mississauga. And also, I will support anyone that will support Ward 10.
Thank you very much. Sue?
Thank you very much. Well, as you know, I've gone on the record, and I am supporting Steve Mahoney for mayor. And I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. And I agree. The reason that's front and center is he will do the best job for the residents of Ward 10. And I truly believe that. I'm going on his leadership and his experience. And that's why I'm supporting Steve Mahoney for mayor.
Thank you very much. I don't think we have to go back to that. We've all said what we got. Now, this is a question that's come up a lot, so let's get this one off the table. Is there going to be a mosque built in Ward 10, and why?
Mosque. And that's going to go to Jamie.
Well, I'm not sure whether the mosque is going to be built in Ward 10 or not, because I was told that it's not going to be built in Ward 10, because when I spoke to a couple of the people from the Islamic community and who used to use the mosque as bank line, they told me that no mosque is coming, so I do not know.
Thank you very much. This actually just came to light to me over the weekend when I was door knocking and talking to people that there was a proposed mosque going in Ward 10. But we have a moratorium in building. Well, we know we're not going to build anything right away. But we also have to look at all the other faith-based institutions that we're looking at building or trying to build and can't because they're always being shot down one way or another with the building department. So we have to take a serious look at that to see what should happen and where.
Thank you. Over to Sue.
Thank you. First, I'll address your concern about other faith groups. I'm proud to say that St. Bakita is actually in final site plan approval for their church located at Oscar Peterson and Thomas. And we've been working on that property for the past probably 6 years. They purchased the land previously, and it's taken them this long to get through the process of raising money. And I'm proud to say that that church will be in the ground next year. As for a mosque being built in Ward 10, well, 70% of our community is Muslim. Do they deserve a place of worship? Absolutely they do. But they're not going to be treated any differently than anybody else that's going to purchase property along the 9th line. That's the only place it can go, and they will have to buy the property like anyone else and the proper acreage. There is an issue right now on Winston Churchill where a proposed mosque is planned, and there is an issue. It isn't big enough. So I'm hoping that they do purchase a piece of property along the 9th line so that they can build a place of worship.
There is no moratorium on development right now. Let me say it over and over again. There's development going into McCracken Park. There's development going in on 9th line and Osprey, and it's just no moratorium. So everything is up for grabs. Very recently, we lost the grounds for the International Baptist Church. This was the piece of land on the 9th line between Beecham and Foxwood that bumps onto Berryman and Woodview. This land, we blinked, it disappeared into developers' hands, and now it's going to be 15 single-family homes. Greatly, greatly saddened the community of Lisgar, myself included. We would have loved to have had the Baptist Church come there. So this is a question about multiple faiths needing spaces to gather in Ward 10. How sad it is for Ward 10 not to have a place of faith other than a historic building, which is St. Peter's. It can only house approximately 100 people, and to the best of my knowledge has no heating. There is a need, but where does the need get addressed? That is the question. To conveniently say it is the 9th line is not acceptable for all the myriads of reasons that I've said earlier. That is not acceptable. But there is a need, and the community needs to be facilitated in meeting that need. It is not about blanket solutions and convenient locations.
Over to Sue. Thank you, Kira.
Thank you. I can't go without talking about the Baptist church land. And yes, there was going to be a Baptist church on that property. They purchased the property, they fundraised all that money through their congregation, and they were taken for a ride by their architect, their planner, and it wasn't because we didn't want them there. It was because the architect and the planner didn't tell them about the parking regulations that will be needed for a church. A church gets a lot of parking, and I wouldn't dare have all those people parking along 9th line, going down Beecham, blocking in cars, going along Lisgar and walking to that church. That's why there's no church on the 9th line. It has nothing to do with backdoor deals and getting them into the developers. That church was very excited to have someone come to them and say, please help us out. We have to sell this property because we have no money left. And we can't get approvals through the city to build because of parking. That's the only reason that that didn't go through.
So to set things up again, looking at transit, what is your views on the Hurontario LRT? And do you think that maybe a Dundas LRT or maybe some other plan would be better than the money that's committed to the Hurontario LRT? And that's going to go to you first, Paul.
The Hurontario LRT will do nothing for people in Ward 10 because we still got to get over to that part of the city. We need something that's going to go east and west to get us to that transit way for any reason for us to actually benefit from that. Again, it takes 2 hours for my wife to get to work where the LRT is. So again, it's the same problem. We need fast transit east and west to get people from Ward 10 to where the jobs are in Mississauga.
Thank you for asking that question because I think it's an important investment that we're going to be having to make in the city of Mississauga, and I totally disagree with it. I won't put up my hand in favor of that LRT. I don't think it's in the right place. I think it should go east-west. That's where the traffic is. From Milton, people are coming in from Cambridge, then they come into Ward 10, then they go into Mississauga to get to their jobs. I would wholly support something going along the Dundas or Burnham-Thorpe route, because that's where the jobs are. That moves people out of our city. Coming from the lakeshore up to Brampton does nothing. And I know that the city center is supposed to be our core for business and our core city center, but that isn't where all the jobs are. The jobs are going into Toronto or going up to the corporate centers.
Thank you. Over to you, Kira.
I'd like to see a regional transit solution. We're creating solutions to the transit problems and the transit challenges in little bubbles. Mississauga here, Brampton over there, Hamilton over to the west, Milton to our neighbors. It's not going to work because we don't live in bubbles. We certainly don't work, nor do we play, nor do we study in bubbles. I have youth in Ward 10 who are struggling to get to the Sheridan campus in Oakville, taking an hour and 12 minutes by transit to get there. They go east to then go west. How is this a quality of life for this young person in terms of building their ability to succeed mentally and economically? The solution that needs to be played out is a regional transit solution. Corridors along the Derry Road, along Britannia Road, and further south to Dundas, but also vertically, a crisscross that connects everybody on one ticket. Just remember, the councils of City of Mississauga have $17,700 for a car allowance. That needs to go. It needs to be a migrant transit pass.
Thank you. Over to you.
If you look at my plan and my vision, you'll see that I've recommended 4 to 5 bus rapid transit routes. I recommend the bus rapid transit route along Derry Road, Britannia, Eglinton, Highway 10, Dixie, and you have another one that you can add along the Mississauga Road where it takes people north, south, and east, west, crisscross across the city. The LRT is going to cost $1.7 billion. The 5 or 6 bus rapid transit route will cost about $1.5 billion. You don't have to put any hole in the ground, you don't have to put any rail in the ground. You just have to put up a couple of bus shelters and you'll be able to move people along the city very faster. They'll get out of their cars, they'll get to a place. Instead of taking 2 hours like Paul's wife does to get to her destination or back home, you'll be able to get to your working place or your home in less than an hour. If you have these bus rapid transit routes, you will not need to worry about an LRT and you will have better access and much more frequent movement of people and less gridlock within the city of Mississauga.
Thank you, Jamie. The next question will be answered first by Sue, and that is how will you deal with the issue of secondary suites and the enforcement of illegal basement apartments?
Well, this is an issue near and dear to my heart. Seeing my husband was on the fire department for 35 years, and many times he had to pull families and children out of basement apartments because they weren't safe. They didn't have fire alarms, they didn't have smoke detectors, they didn't have an exit to get out of there. So to me, the issue is first safety. And of course, this has been mandated by our provincial government, that we have to have secondary suites and affordable housing. I'd like to know how they can mandate things without giving us any money to enforce this. The City of Mississauga is now put in a position where we have to go out and enforce this, where people have to come in and apply for permits, which costs the residents to do, and then at least we know that they're safe. How many have applied? 3. 3 people have applied for the permit to get their basement apartment licensed because it's not available through a cost-efficient way. If it was available free for them to come in and be able to do that, then absolutely we could do that. But I'd like, do you mind if I just have one?
You can go back to it later.
So over to you, Kira.
Mississauga has a social housing problem. It has a housing problem. It has an affordable housing problem. To rent right now in Mississauga is beyond the means for a working family that is just trying to start out. So basement apartments have always existed. They are illegal. They're hidden away. It's the best kept secret. My husband and I do Santa Claus funds for the last 7.5 years, approximately. And we've seen over that time, the number of basement apartments increase. Why? Because there is a need. To shove that need aside and say it's illegal and it needs to disappear is not a solution. If there is not enough social housing, if there's not enough affordable housing, there's going to be an increase in basement apartments, and it also dovetails into a parking issue and a transportation issue. So how do we do it? We need to push back. Remember when I told you about leadership and learning to work with the municipal government? Here is the case in point. This is an example of learning to work effectively, championing and advocating with the municipal government to bring that money back into the city.
Thank you. Over to Jamie.
They say when you get lemons, you make lemonade. And the provincial government has mandated secondary units into Mississauga, and we have no choice. We have to follow the guidelines of the provincial government. We need to get the Mississauga bylaw officers out of the office. The only time they get out is when they get a report or somebody complains. That's when they go out to look after enforcing the bylaw in the city. My plan, as I told you before, if we amalgamate Brampton, Peel, Caledon, get rid of the region of Peel, we will have sufficient money that we can provide affordable housing for 10,000 people in the region of Peel. If we do this, we will get away from some of these secondary units. People will have affordable homes where they can go to, and we will be able not only to deal with the homeless or the affordable housing situation, but we'll be able to deal with some of the affordable situations that we have within our community. This puts a strain on the services, garbage pickup, water, parking, and a lot of other infrastructure needs that has to be taken care of that is not being supported by the tax from the property taxes.
No one's denying that there's a need for affordable housing, especially in Mississauga, because housing is expensive. What we have to look at is the safety of these secondary units and how can we enforce it. Unfortunately, unless we know there's a secondary unit, there's nothing we can enforce because we don't know it's there. We also have to use the community, the neighbors, to make sure our other neighbors that are having these apartments know that there is a bylaw and we have to enforce it. We have to make sure that we're not turning our eyes away from bylaw enforcement. It doesn't matter if you're a councillor, if you're a citizen. We have to know that there's a basement apartment or a secondary unit, and we have to let those neighbors know that there is a policy in place for safe running of those facilities as well. Until we know that, we can't enforce it, and we can't go on private property.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to add something that in our Churchill Woods community, which we just developed 500 homes in, I initiated a brand new bylaw into that development, and that is allow builders to discuss with the residents that are buying those homes to put in a legal basement apartment, secondary suite with fire exit, actual windows that they can climb out of the right height, make sure that they have smoke detectors, and more importantly, they have the parking to accommodate these secondary suites, and they're taxed. That's important. Having the basement apartment, they use our services, they live in those homes, and then they don't get taxed for it. I agree we need more social housing, and I have no problem with people sharing their home with their family, but it is a strain on our system.
Okay, the next question will be answered first by Kiru, and that is to all the candidates. If elected, how do you make yourself accessible to your constituents to address issues and concerns in your ward?
Over the last 15 years, being an active volunteer in my ward as well across the region, I have proven to be quite accessible. I put approximately 22 hours in volunteer hours alone per week at present, and my accessibility is quite transparent. It's cell phone, it's my personal cell phone, not paid for by anybody. My social media is my personal email, my Facebook, my Twitter, and my own website. It's fully accessible, and I am known to reply personally. I don't have staff that work for me, it's the personal touch. I pride myself in working directly with local community. The reason is, My background comes from working from the school councils, working with local community-based associations, grassroots, on shoestring budgets, very much like Lisgar Residents Association, Churchill Meadows Residents Association, looking to work community-wide. So accessibility is very important to me, and it's about meeting you and talking to you and being able to take your voice to the next level.
Over to Jamie then. Thank you, Kira.
Over the past 25 years, I've been very active in Mississauga. For the past 18 years, I've lived in Ward 10 area, and I've been very active in Ward 10. I have received numerous commendations for my volunteerism for the past 25 years, which I've given to the city of Mississauga and the country of Canada. Today, I have friends with me from the Trinidad and Tobago Business Council, from the Canadian Caribbean Chamber of Commerce, from investors who want to invest into affordable housing in the area. Plus, I also am very accessible. I have coached some of your kids and a convener for the last 16 years with the North Mississauga Soccer Club. I do my laundry at Erin Center. I visit the restaurants, I visit the laundry mart. I spend my time sometimes at Wild Wings at Churchill Meadows, where I'm there on a frequent basis, almost 4 to 5 days a week. So I'm very accessible. My cell phone is my personal phone number. My email is my personal phone number. You have access to me 24 hours a day. As you will see in my flyer, I am accessible, I am accountable, and I'm engaged in the community.
Thank you, Jamie. Now, Paul.
It's very important to be accessible by every resident in Ward 10. And one of the things that you'll find on my literature is my personal cell phone number. It doesn't go to an office, it goes right to me. The only time I turn my cell phone off is when I'm in a debate. Otherwise, I get in trouble. But really, I also have plans for monthly town halls, be it in a large setting like this, be it in a small setting in someone's home, going for coffee. Not just weekdays on a Friday morning, but anytime, day, evenings, or weekends, whenever the person needs to talk to me. That's most important. They can contact me on my cell phone, my website, and just like everybody else, my email and everything else, they can come and knock on my door. If you have a problem, you can come and talk to me anytime.
Sue?
Thank you. Well, I won't change a thing. I'm just going to keep on doing what I've been doing for the last 8 years, and it's worked well, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So we just got a few more minutes before we go to the closing statement, so Jamie's going to ask his questions for the candidates. We're not asking for a paragraph, we're not asking for multiple answers, we're asking what is the top issue in Ward 10?
The top issue in Ward 10 is accessibility, engage. We have a councillor that really can't get anything done because we're waiting for a community center for the past 8 years. We're hearing about development on 9 Line that it can't be happening. We're waiting for a councillor that we can get access to, and I think that is one of the problems. If we have a councillor that is active, that is engaged, there's a lot that can be done, not only at the city of Mississauga, but the region of Peel, because there's a lot that needs to happen at the region of Peel for it to happen in Ward 10 in Mississauga.
Thank you, Jamie. Paul, the top issue.
The top issue varies depending who you talk to. I've knocked on many doors, and the top issue for everyone changes depending on where you are and where you live. What I see as a top issue, yes, we have the flooding issue, that's being looked after, but we have traffic safety issues. We put in these stop signs, and we have people still driving through stop signs. And I'm just waiting for another child to get run over because we're not enforcing the traffic rules within Ward 10. I believe that's the most important issue.
Thank you, Paul. Sue McFadden.
Well, again, I can't just name one, but I think the most urgent is getting a resolution to the flooding in Lisgar, and I'm looking forward to that report coming through. And then there's certainly other ones, but that would be my top priority, and to make sure that the residents feel comfortable with the solution, and we work to a resolution on that.
Thank you very much. Karen, the top issue.
If I had to pick just one top issue, Jonathan, honestly, I'll be doing my community of Ward 10 a disservice. So what I'm hearing from the families, as I've been door knocking for the last 3.5 months, is there's an issue of safety. It's speeding and drugs. The increase in drug substance sales and usage at local park sites. It is incredible. This is problematic. we are on creeper alert. There are more and more creepers out there, and it's spiking during school times. This is an issue, along with speeding on the major arterial through our main corridors in Ward 10. Next issue that I'm hearing is sites for youth and families to gather. This is taking on the shape and form of a community center, but as well as gathering sites, celebration sites, faith sites. The fact that the parks themselves don't have picnic tables. And last but not least, the issue around transit. It's not limited to my way, it's not limited to all day go lines as well. It's transit and transportation. So it's all of it together for families.
Thank you very much. And now each candidate is going to be given 2 minutes to have a closing statement, and we're going to do it in the reverse order. So we'll come along the table this way, and we're now going to hear from Jamie Doogie.
My name is Jamie Doogie. As I mentioned in the beginning, I'm running for councillor in Ward 10. As I mentioned to you, my recommendation in the first term would be to merge, amalgamate the region of Peel, Brampton, Mississauga, and Caledon. I have investors here who is willing to build affordable homes in the area. I have organization that is here that is willing to help with regards to seniors' homes and living. People that is willing to invest. If we amalgamate these three centers, we have one budget, you have one level of taxation, you don't have two. We'll be able to provide more police service where you would not need the OPP in Caledon. You would have the Peel Regional Police that will serve both Caledon, Brampton, Mississauga. You'll be able to have one regional transit authority which will run from Mississauga to Caledon, where you would have one ticket that you will pay that will take you from one end to the next end of the region. You would have $430 million in savings that will help to alleviate any future debt for infrastructure, to build, and to provide as much as we can. We'll be able to provide 10,000 affordable homes. We'll be able to provide affordable homes for 10,000 people. This means big. We have the Mississauga Fire Services, but we have the Peel Paramedics. Why don't we have the Peel Fire Services? We will have 23 councillors and a mayor and a deputy mayor instead of 33 people. We will cut all the levels of the fat on the top, and we will hire more frontline staff to be able to deliver the services where it is needed. We need to reduce, we need to get our taxes down to where it should be. Instead of paying 13.1%, we should be paying 6% on our property taxes, because your increase is hidden in the region's portion of your taxes, because you really don't know how much it costs you. In the last 6 years, your property taxes have gone up 32%. Please take a look at it, and you can tell me later on.
Thank you very much, Jamie. I can rehearse this all night. I'm going to get it wrong. But Kiru Kalendaran has got her closing statement.
Very good. Thank you, Jonathan. For the past 15 years, my family and I have had the pleasure of calling Ward 10 our home. My children who are born and raised here have friendships that have lasted from kindergarten. My life is rich and very blessed and highly privileged. We have friends and neighbors of many cultures, languages, and faiths, all of whom share the dream, my dream of Ward 10, that leads in innovation, green space, safety, faith and celebration spaces, accessible relevant transit, transportation corridors. We also dreamt of value for our property taxes. Ward 10 residents are not second-class citizens, and we certainly don't pay second-class taxes. It's time for change, and it's time for respect, and it's time to have our voices heard. Today, we have become a have-not ward, lacking safety and services, lacking confident and relevant representation at City Hall and the region, lacking a truly local champion for the resident voices. As the past president of this Residents Association and a long-term volunteer locally, it is time for me to put my Ward 10 on the map and be its champion at City Hall, to bring value and worth to all my residents for the taxes we pay. You just heard, I won't change a thing. Keep on doing what I know and been doing for the last 8 years. If it has not been delivered in the last 8 years, status quo won't deliver it in the next 4. On October 27th, you have a choice. 4 more years of status quo or a better return on investment for your taxes. Demand the value and worth you and your family deserve. I'm asking you, as my employer, to trust me with the most important job of my entire life, to bring your voice to City Hall, to be the change you want to see for your family. I, Kiru Kulendran, am asking for the privilege and the distinct honor of being your city councillor at Mississauga. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. This upcoming election is an important one, as we will elect a new mayor for the first time in 36 years. We will also have a new regional chair for the first time in Peel Region history. I believe it's important to ensure our council maintains consistency through this transitional time and that your ward is represented by an experienced leader. I am the only candidate on the ballot in Ward 10 that has the experience to keep our community moving forward. This is not the time for on-the-job training. During the run-up to this election, you will hear lots of promises made by other candidates in order to gain your vote. Many of these promises are unattainable, unaffordable, and certainly unrealistic. I will be making a note of these statements and offering a reality check on my website to help you figure out what is actually true, factual, and reliable. You can check it out at realexsue.ca. Doing what I love, loving what I do, that's not just a slogan for me. I truly enjoy engaging with my neighbors to resolve concerns and make our community a better place for everyone. I am here to serve you as your representative in municipal government. Because I love this work, I pour my energy and passion into it each and every day. With your support, together we can continue to build a community where people want to live, raise their families, and enjoy an exceptional quality of life. We are not the have-not ward. Please re-elect me as your councillor on October the 27th. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who came out tonight, because you are the actual reason we're here. It's not for us to talk amongst ourselves, it's for us to talk to you and you to talk to us. I also like to thank Lynn and Ashwani for hosting this very important opportunity for the residents to meet face-to-face with the candidates for the position of Councillor Ward 10. I may not have all the answers to questions put forth tonight, but I do offer a few proposals to make things just a bit easier for residents of Ward 10 and make City Hall more accountable for its decisions or actions. As I mentioned earlier, I propose that all members of council be limited to terms of service and how long they can be in position. I believe it's very imperative that the new council, post-election, pursue new and innovative ways to generate more revenue for the city, such as my business plan called Vision 2020, which includes new ways to create more jobs for residents of Mississauga, offer special financial deals for employees to take public transit, and reduce traffic congestion. Please feel free to visit my website, www.wardtenmississauga.com, or you can visit my YouTube election specials called Preicher's Point of View. The public has a right to hold elected officials accountable for its decisions or indecisions that affect the community. It is vital that your councillor be accessible, willing to listen to your concerns, rather than the councillor who makes decisions for the community and then consults later. I am the son of an immigrant father. I appreciate hard work of my parents, and this is how I've conducted myself in my adult life, be it at the Bond Center of Management or working with local youth in the cadet program. Proven leadership is about being open to new ideas, regularly being accessible to constituents any time of day, evenings, or weekends. It's time for a new type of leadership at City Hall. My name is Paul Preichus. It would be an honor to serve you as your councillor at City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I want to thank the audience. You're a great audience. You're very respectful, and I hope that you enjoyed the evening. Thank you very much to the Lisgar Residents Association and Churchill Meadows Residents Association with Glenn and Ashwani and all the volunteers that helped put this night on. Just want to remind everybody that the election, of course, is on October 27th, so hopefully you've got some more information, and please get out and vote. I'm Jonathan Giggs. Thanks very much for coming tonight.